Hello dear learners, I am Dr. Sheena Thomas from the Department of Education at the Bhopal School of Social Sciences. Lot has changed over this pandemic. We have learned a lot many things and the system of education has completely changed over this course of time. Many have moved to online education. And to begin with, in this module, I will be discussing about Kiser's interactive model of learning. To begin with, I like to start with a very important quote by John Dewey. He went on to say, if we teach today as we taught yesterday, then we would rob our children of their tomorrow. So rightly said. In this pandemic, this quote by John Dewey comes so true. Definitely, we cannot teach the way we taught yesterday, but somehow I feel in this online teaching also, what we have not left out is our obsession to teach with books. We have to leave away that obsession of teaching with books. That is when online teaching will come more relevant and will become a happy space of learning. Do you ever feel like this? I like to learn, but I don't like to be taught. These are not my words, but in the words of Winston Churchill. I, as a teacher educator, always feel I really don't like to be taught, but I like to learn. And when I took an opinion poll of my students, most of them, if I give you the figures, 75% of them said, I agree to this statement that I like to learn, but I don't like to be taught. So just imagine we are moving to online education, and if we impose ourselves as teachers, the education will not be realized. What we need to do away from being an instructor to being a facilitator. So we would in this module look at many possibilities of how to make that transition from being an instructor to being a facilitator. Let's go to the next slide. So what should be different in these classes, or rather what can be different in these classes? We as teachers need to give a lot of choice to our student learners. Choice is very important for learning, because if a child is not willing to learn, you cannot force him or her to learn. The next important step is we should promote a lot of collaboration. If we promote collaboration in terms of research projects, or in terms of learning, making small groups, be it online or be it in submitting the assignment, be it in a project work, the outcome has been much successful than individualistic approach. So we should promote collaboration, and rather we should try to bring in this collaboration of research into the teaching community also. The next is we should communicate with students. These are times when it is very difficult to get a communication across. So we should communicate more with our student learners. See that you communicate with your students and they in turn reciprocate back to your communication. So this channel of communication should be open between us all the time. The next, in all this, what happens is we help them for critical thinking, and that is the very purpose of education. Critical thinking, which is equal to problem solving, and the aim of education is so that we enable our learners to be problem solvers. We should take them to the path of being a critical thinker, and all these in turn promotes creativity, and that's what we want our students to be: creators of knowledge, constructors of knowledge, and find out creative and sustainable solutions to their problem. The slide here shows a triangle, and the triangle has three components: knowledge, skill, and attitude. What do you think is the most difficult to attain? Just give it a thought, just a small reflection. I will of course conclude, but I want a pause here and you people think about it. Which is the most difficult to attain? Yes, some of you have got it right. And when I took this with my students, the opinions were divided. Some said it is knowledge, some said it is skill, and some said it is attitude. Whereas the most difficult to attain is attitude. I'll give you two examples to clarify this point of mine, wherein why attitude is most difficult to attain. See, if we take the current example of coronavirus, you can see everybody has the knowledge that wearing mask is very important. Everybody has the skill now to how to wear it. But how many people have changed in their attitude to accept wearing mask? If you go to the markets, these days it is festive season, if you go to the markets, you can see all the market being full and rarely anybody is wearing a mask. So the attitudinal shift is a big problem. Like if I talk about another example could be, If I talk about teachers, many of us during this pandemic have gone through elaborate and exhaustive kind of training with regard to getting trained for online teaching. We have the knowledge, we have so to say acquired the skills of teaching online, but that attitudinal shift is still waiting for us to accept the reality that yes, we need to get into online teaching, we need to accept the flipped way of teaching learning, we need to accept the blended mode of teaching learning even in future post coronavirus also. So, the most difficult part to attain in all these three components is the attitude. So, in all this, I feel for the attitudinal shift to take place, the Kiser's interactive processing model comes as a big help. Now, what is Kiser's interactive processing model? I'll just take the exact definition. The interactive processing model offers a tool to enhance student learning in experiential education. The second point is, this model is a step-by-step method of learning from experience which guides students to think through their experiences carefully and systematically. Okay, now why Kiser's model is important for this online teaching? Just imagine we are not able to see our students physically, we are not able to judge from their body language whether they are understanding or not, we are not able to make eye contact with them. So, what is more important in this scenario of teaching is we need to give them experience, not as an instructor but as a facilitator. Now, how will you design those experience? It all depends on your creativity, on an individual creative mind. How do you create that creative experience, or so to say an experience of learning for the students, which would definitely work in this virtual remote mode of teaching learning. Okay, let's look at the steps once again. You can see there are 6 steps in Kiser's interactive processing model. The first one being gathering data from experience, the second one reflection, the third one is identifying relevant knowledge, fourth one examining dissonance, fifth one articulating learning, and the sixth one being developing a plan. Let's decode Kiser's model step by step. Each step we will discuss it together for better understanding. Let's move to the first step, and the first step was gathering objective data from concrete experience. How are we going to do this? Okay, so if I want to gather data, so the first question which should come to any learner or as an educator also should be, what did I observe in this experience and what were the key events and features? So that is most important. The reflective form of learning comes here in picture, wherein we have to think deeply ki what did I observe in this experience. For example, if I take this sudden transition of switching to online teaching and learning. So I as a teacher educator should review and observe ki what did I experience from this online teaching. I have taken few classes, so I should sit down, prepare a reflective journal and think what did I observe, and that reflective journal will help me improve myself. And that is what I tell all my pupil teachers also, that they should reflect and write down in their reflective journal ki how the learning process is happening in the online mode of teaching and learning. The second point is, what did I observe about the physical surrounding, about my behavior, actions and those of others. This is also a very important point, because you should understand that whether there is an element of joy of teaching. Are you reluctant to teach? If that reluctance is there, definitely it will show off in just moving away from this online method of teaching and learning, or for that matter for anything. So that element of joy, a happiness should be there to give away. So you should write in your reflective journal, what did I observe about the physical surroundings? How many students did log in for an online class? What was the problem? Try to communicate with the students, those who didn't join or were not able to join, ki what about their behavior, what about their physical surroundings and those of others. This point helps in building a reflective kind of learning and helping to gather important data. The second point is reflecting. Now what do you reflect about? What emotions and thoughts does this experience trigger in me? So is it a positive experience, is it a negative experience, or is it a very tiring experience? So you will have to reflect, and that reflection will definitely help you to improve in your teaching and learning. Be it a teacher or be it a learner, so you will have to reflect. And the second point is, what does this experience point out to me about my own attitude, biases or preferences? See, in spite of we being into 3 months of online teaching and learning, there might be many teachers who are not open to teach online. They are still reserved to that traditional approach of teaching and learning. So, you can think about your bias and your preferences. What is your preference? Are you ready to make this transition? If yes, this will definitely pay off. Okay. And the third point is, how do I evaluate my own effectiveness in this experience? That is also very important. Self-assessment, self-evaluation. How do I evaluate my effectiveness? There are times when you have technological glitch and you don't know. Are you ready to seek help? Are you ready to take help, or are you ready to look at some YouTube videos and learn the art of teaching online? So, all these things help one to improve oneself on the effectiveness, and we become better teachers. The third point was identifying relevant knowledge. So, in this, the sub points through which you can ponder is, what coursework or reading have I done in order to enhance my knowledge? Okay, online teaching and learning, all said, you might have attended a lot many webinars, a lot many YouTube videos, seminars, so to say. But have you personally, did some reading to enhance your knowledge? That also becomes very important. So, same goes for students also. If you have some problem in submitting assignment, or you get a setback somewhere, are you making enough efforts, some reading, some extra reading or some understanding extra, so that you come over that fear and the setback becomes a setup for you to take off well in life? The second point is, how does my academic knowledge help me to organize, understand, make sense of or develop hypothesis about this experience? So, this academic knowledge, whatever I am having, how does it help me to develop a hypothesis? So, if I am here as a teacher educator, I believe definitely if my pupil teachers take on with online teaching and learning, they will never remain a local teacher, but rather they would be prepared for being a global teacher. And with internet and with lot of 5G approach and education 4.0 taking on the current scenarios, I feel our students will definitely be the global teachers. Only thing is that they should observe wherever they are lacking, they should learn and get over their fears. That is identifying relevant knowledge. We'll move on to the next point. The next point is examining dissonance. Now, what do you mean by examining dissonance? The sub points for you to understand the dissonance factor is, what disagreement is there between what I should do and what I want or must do? So, the disagreement, a little tiff between what I should do or what I prefer to do and what I must be doing. Are you shying away from teaching? Are you shying away from wearing a mask? You should be wearing a mask, but you are not wearing a mask, and what you must be doing. The social distancing thing, if I collaborate both the corona experience and say the online teaching. So, there are many examples which will help you understand this factor. What disagreement is there between my personal views and theories, knowledge of the profession? So, if I feel, or if an elderly teacher feels that traditional teaching is the best approach of teaching and there is no need, you can hold on the children for 1 year. So, your views might be entirely different. And what is the tiff between your personal views and the knowledge requirement, or so to say your requirements of the profession? So, you have to have a neutral approach and see that you walk halfway and explain your position to your colleagues and the organization. What conflict is there between what I know and what I do? There are people that who know much but end up doing nothing, or end up doing very little to their potential. So, these are dissonance, and we as individuals, you need to introspect at times, where are the dissonance I am having and what I actually should be doing for my own peace and for the betterment of the society. The fifth point is articulating learning. The sub points under articulating learning, or so to say how do you articulate learning, is what are the major lessons I learned from this experience. This is also very important and should go into a reflective journal every day. If you learn something, that has to be recorded into your reflective journal. What did I learn about myself, about others? For example, when you start with your online classes, it is really a jittery feeling. It is not an easy task suddenly to make this transition from a traditional classroom to an online teaching. And about students also, what did you learn? We anticipate, as these are very tech savvy students, maybe much ahead of us in teaching learning. But then the problem is they have their own arena in online world. They may not have access to online teaching and learning earlier. So they are also at the same page. So what did you learn about others? You may differ with my opinion, or you may be with me in my opinion. So all said and done. So this is also an experience which needs to be written in your reflective journal. And about the world around me, what knowledge, wisdom or insight did I gain? If you jot down these points as there in the PPT for your reference, you would definitely become a reflective teacher, and this would help you improve your effectiveness day by day. And the last point under this section is, what skills did I acquire? So it's very important. See, we are building on knowledge, then we are building on skills. What skills did I acquire? So am I more proficient teaching online? Am I better able to perform with the digital tools? And am I able to teach with technology? What are the skills have I learned in the process? So during my module, my emphasis is on you writing reflective journal and trying to adopt the Kiser's interactive model of learning. And the last point under this model is developing a plan. Let's look at the sub points under developing a plan. Where do I go from here, both in my work and in my learning? A very important point. The PPT is there for your guidance, and you all, if try to do this and give me your feedback and opinion in the link provided in the video. It would be really great of you, and I will also become a co-learner in your learning. Where did I go here from, both in my work and in my learning? How might I modify my own approach or methods as I encounter similar experience in future? So if suppose, is it just a time being kind of thing, or is it a concrete learning experience I have derived from this online teaching and learning, that one aspect, and say from the hand hygiene kind of experience which we have learned during the coronavirus pandemic experience, this also, is it a lifetime change you have made, or is it just during these 3 months and we are going to be back to the same? No. So this shift has to be more permanent. The next is, what alternative directions might I take as I proceed, and what are the likely consequences of each? So am I ready now, and am I more open to online teaching? Will I post COVID also be open to flipped mode of learning and teaching? So this is very important for each one of us to answer. Is it just a burden on us? Are we just looking at these 3 months and thinking that when would this corona go off and I'll switch to my traditional mode of teaching? Or do you plan that I would make a permanent change in my life and I would more adopt the flipped mode of learning or the blended mode of learning? The last point under developing a plan is, what gaps do I recognize in my knowledge or skills, and consequently how will I fill the gaps? So the most important thing is, see, we all are not perfect. No, none of us are perfect. But if we understand what are the gaps, and if we put our energy and reserves in filling those gaps, I think we are all going to be better human beings, a better educator, a better teacher. So it is very important to identify the gaps first and channelize our energy in filling those gaps. So these are the 6 points under Kiser's interactive processing model. I hope you have understood the model, and the discussion will help you in writing your own reflective journal, and we all in turn will become good educators for the future, and we all will be adapting the new change and the new normals in our lives. Thank you so much, learners, for that patient watch. I would love to read to all your comments, likes and shares. Thank you so much once again.